Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to a very exciting special podcast slash interview slash fun hangout. Myself, Benjy Nurick, and Alfie House from the Daily Echo, joined by Southampton legend Franny Benali to discuss our epic facial hair for Movember and a little bit more. Franny, how are you doing today?
Yeah, really good, Benjy. Hey, Alfie, good to join you guys. I'm all well, thank you, albeit weighed down a little bit by what's on my top lip, as you've just mentioned.
It is certainly looking pretty strong, Franny. It's looking, I saw the one from last year, but you might actually be topping it already. Alfie, of course, got a shout out from Arsenal legend David Seaman for his own mustache. So it's a pretty impressive room here we've got.
I wasn't going to do Movember this year. I've never done it before until you get into a podcast with David Seaman. The first thing he says to you is "good tache," and it sort of decides it for you, doesn't it? You have to continue at that point. There's no real better backer of a mustache than him, I feel.
Absolutely. But for everyone watching, we're going to include the links to both Franny's fundraiser and Alfie. So if you have any means to donate to the Movember fundraisers, we would greatly appreciate that. It's for an incredibly good cause, for mental health and suicide prevention for men, prostate and testicular cancer. So a lot of really, really, really good work that I think is really important to all of us. I mean, Franny, I guess we'll start with that. I know we saw your Twitter poll, which I think officially ignited your Movember campaign, but you've done it before. And if you could just talk through why it's important to you and why it's something you wanted to do.
Well, actually, this one, I think you might have seen a mock-up fake one, Benjy, that because this is my first attempt at supporting the cause and growing the tache back, which, you know, for some supporters will remember was quite relevant in the late 80s and early 90s when I had it. And then it wasn't until Graham Souness joined the club that I thought, well, the club's not big enough for two moustaches, so mine had to go. His was pretty impressive as well at the time. So yeah, it's just great to get involved with the campaign. It's not just the fundraising, it's the awareness around, as you've just touched on, Benjy, suicide prevention, you know, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and mental health for men. So if it's an opportunity to maybe have a little bit of a flashback to the playing days when I sported a tache many years ago and support a great cause and raise some money, then I'm up for that.
I think that's exactly it, isn't it? Because obviously the whole Saints community are going to get behind you, as they always do with all of your fundraising, which we'll definitely get into more of as well. But I think I'm right in saying I saw a tweet that was from Kenzie saying, "Don't tell mum that you're doing it," or something like that. So is it not full support in their family?
Yeah, you've pretty much guessed right there, Alfie. My son and daughter, Luke and Kenzie, were both like, "Yeah, that'd be amazing, Dad. Go for it, do it. You know, everyone would love it." And then I heard one voice pipe up, and it was Karen, my wife, turning around saying, "Yeah, I'm not too keen on it, to be honest. That's best long left in the past." So she wasn't too supportive, but she's fully behind it now. Albeit she's counting the days down, I think, till I can probably shave it off again.
Are you looking forward to December the 1st and getting rid of it? Or are you thinking, do you know what, this is bringing back the glory days?
Do you know what? I don't know about you guys, but, you know, I haven't had any real irritation or sort of itchiness or anything from the growth side of it. I'm quite comfortable with it there. It's just when I do maybe catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror and I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute, you know, is this good or is it not? And so yeah, maybe I'm counting the days down a little bit, to be honest.
Well, I can certainly say from our perspective, we think it's excellent, and I think most of our viewers will feel the same, particularly those Southampton fans who got to see the tache in its glory days back in, as you said, the late 80s, early 90s. But of course, these topics of mental health and suicide prevention, prostate and testicular cancer, they're things that are obviously important to yourself, things that you've worked to raise awareness and fundraise for before. And it's another move, another chance to push that along, I guess.
Yeah, most definitely. It's you know, we know only too well. You know, I maybe come from a bit of an era and a background and an upbringing where, you know, and even through my football, it's you know, there's very much that, you know, we hear these phrases, you know, man up and you know, not showing any signs of weakness or emotion and things like that, or we certainly didn't many years ago. And you know, I'm an emotional person, and you know, family is first and foremost for me, as you know, but there's a lot of these things that are affecting not just men, but women clearly that, you know, it's important to talk about things and, you know, share issues and problems and seek help, whether that's just talking to a family member, a friend, or someone more specialized. You know, there's so many things that need our support now. And I think that's one reason why we're trying to do our little bit this month, isn't it? With Movember, it's, you know, it's a crucial thing certainly for men. We're probably not the most open at times at sharing emotions and talking about problems and being open and honest, and quite often either seeking the help that we need or getting checked out for something that might be a medical condition or something. So there's so many factors that, you know, I think we need to be more supportive of. I guess is the thing that you know, I'd like to sort of highlight and stress is that you know, clearly each and every one of us, we go through struggles, difficult times, one way or another, whether it's in our professional lives, personal lives, from a health perspective, you know, physically, mentally, whatever it might be. You know, we all go on that roller coaster. You know, it's not a fantastic journey that we go on. It's going in a positive, great direction always. So everyone faces setbacks, difficulties to overcome, and I think, you know, talking about it, seeking help, whilst using those qualities that we do have to overcome issues and problems. Quite clearly, there's some of them that you can't deal with just on your own. So yeah, you know, great to support these kind of causes and, you know, try and be more open and honest and understanding of yourselves. I think, you know, sometimes it's a bit of self-reflection and understanding yourself as an individual sometimes, and what works for you and what doesn't. And you know, clearly, you know, I'm like probably all of us, we want to help others, but I think at times there's clearly a moment where you need to look after yourself first and foremost in order to then help other people. And yeah, all those kind of messages that we see and hear more of nowadays is pretty crucial, and I'm just pleased to add to that.
Franny, I'm sure you've spoken about it before a number of times, but I wanted to ask, where did this all really start for you? Because you've gone on, you've raised, you know, I think it might well be almost £1.4 million for cancer research now, which is an incredible amount of money for obviously one man and all of your support team, your family to achieve. Where did it really start for you? Where did you become professional footballer turned fundraiser?
You know, I think it's something that's maybe always been sort of ingrained in me a bit, in many ways. You know, just, you know, I grew up in a family where my grandfather and grandmother were deaf, and you know, I always felt like I remember as a youngster, sort of, you know, having quite a bit of empathy, I think, for other people that I maybe saw as maybe not being able to enjoy life, maybe to the extent I was, even as a young boy, and, you know, feeling sad and upset that they couldn't hear and communicate in a way that I could. And, you know, and then that just spread, I think, through my playing career as a club captain for many years. You know, we were very active as a football club and a team, and players and individuals within the community supporting many causes. And so I think it's always been there over the years. And then, you know, just wanted to do it more on a personal and family level in recent years, as you've seen. So yeah, I guess it's just wanting to be a good person, giving back, because we're in a position to give back and do something positive and do our little bit to try and make a difference.
And I mean, with all the fundraising, something I know you're very quick to talk about, whether it's now or in the previous times we've chatted, is that even though, you know, it might be Franny Benali's Iron Man, there's so many people who have helped with these various journeys, whether it be your family or the Southampton community as a whole, which is obviously incredibly special to you, being someone from the area, someone who played for the club for their entire professional career, captained the club ambassador now. I mean, just having that support from so many Southampton fans, whether it's at St. Mary's or around the city, online, etc., that must just be so special, I would think.
Benjy, honestly, I can't emphasize enough. I've said it many times before, I'm sure, but first and foremost, my family. You know, I could not do the things I do or have achieved in my life without them. Their love and support, they're everything to me. And then I've got that extended football family that is just, absolutely incredible. And that's not just the supporters, the club, the staff, it's the city and the region. And, everything that I've managed to go through and experience in my life has been with the huge support of my immediate family and then the football family. And, I'm so grateful for that, because I know how difficult it is for people to either support things with emotionally, physically, from a donation perspective, or giving up time. I've witnessed that on my recent challenges. People are taking annual holidays to come along and support my challenges in recent years, and it just goes to show the lengths and the goodness that is in people to help somebody like myself doing what I was doing, but ultimately working towards the bigger cause, which was, ideally raising that money that we aim to do, supporting a great cause, but not just that particular charity that we did in recent years, but like Saints Foundation now, being an ambassador for them in the club, and the incredible work that they do in the community is just, it makes me feel better as an individual and a person. I'm sure it does maybe for you guys, and probably all of us have our own reasons for doing these things, but deep down, I think you just feel better in yourself knowing that you're doing your little bit to help others that need it.
I think the first thing to definitely say is that I had a dodgy mustache, went onto a David Seaman podcast, and he told me it was good. Doesn't equate to 20, 30 years of the hard work that you put in. I actually wanted to ask about the club ambassador role a little bit, because I spoke to a Southampton fan and they asked me a bit of a question. What does it actually mean to be a club ambassador? What do you actually do? What are the things that you take part in to sort of help raise the club's profile and help them support in the things they want to do?
I think there's a number of things, really. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a former player now that is a fan of the football club and the team. I'll always be a Southampton supporter, and regardless of any official connections and things like that. But I was very humbled and honoured to have been recognised as an ambassador of the club, both the club and Saints Foundation. And I guess it's slightly different, those two roles. As from the club ambassador, it's great to support and give shout outs on my social platforms, in support of what the football club are doing. And clearly I'll go along and maybe get involved with some corporate clients of the club as well from time to time. The foundation is quite different in some ways. It's getting involved in the activities and the support that they put out in the community, and highlighting the incredible work that they do in our local area. So again, just continuing really things that I did as a player, but also post-playing days in the years up to this point, just really ultimately trying to support the club, the city and the community as best as I can, really.
I always like seeing the Saints Foundation and sort of what they're up to. And I went to an auction for the Saints Foundation at a podcast event last year, and I paid some money for a pair of Jan Bednarek boots, and he obviously then left the club very quickly after. But it's always nice to see what they're doing, and I get emails through about the sort of sessions they're holding for the senior Saints, and they're having tea and coffee after little exercise sessions when they wouldn't be able to normally go out and talk to anybody, and it just gets them out of their house, gets them doing things. And I think people, and I'm sure Benjy, you feel the same, definitely would appreciate the work they do in the local community around the football club. It's the most important aspect.
I mean, I think that's the key, is that each football club is so central to the community, and that isn't different in Southampton. I feel like even in my brief time around Southampton, the center of the city feels like the football club, and I imagine that's something you've had immeasurable experience with, Franny.
Oh, for sure. And I mentioned that family. That's how it's always felt for me. And there's been different ownerships. There's been people that come and go at the football clubs, and it's one of those animals that is the nature of the beast in many ways. But at the core of it, there's so many special people that I've either worked with or got to meet or had an opportunity to go and support in one way or another. And yeah, it just enriches my life. I know that, and my family's life. Our connection with the football club and the city and everybody involved with it is truly heartwarming for us. We absolutely love it, and we'll do all that we can to make that difference for those out there as well.
I must ask, did you do a defending masterclass session with Mohamed Salisu recently?
I did, yeah, I did. I think it's still to be aired. I'm not sure if it has screened yet.
Okay.
But, yeah, we did do a bit of a recording session with Sally at the training ground, and that's the first time I've met him face to face. And what a guy! I mean, you can just see, talking about good things and positive stuff and supporting great causes. You can just see he's a good person, and as well as being one of our top defenders, it was really good to meet him. So yeah, it should be hopefully a nice piece when it comes out.
Yeah, he's obviously playing in the World Cup right now, and he'll be on today, and he'll be on over the next couple of weeks. Who's the better defender, Franny? Are you able to say?
Well, he's certainly fitter and sharper than I am these days, that's for sure. But no, it's incredible to see these guys now, isn't it? I was quite fit and strong, and fitness side of things was a big part of my thing in the way that I lived my life on and off the pitch. I was maybe more like a modern day player back in my era, when it wasn't quite so well known and sort of practiced, shall we say. But yeah, no, he's a top defender, and I did say to him at one point, I think, I'm now the winger looking to take you on, Sally. Please don't kick me.
I'm sure he did.
No, he did fulfill my wishes, and
fair play to him.
He was kind on me. It was pretty gentle.
That's fortunate.
The real question is, who has the better mustache? And I think we know the answer to that one.
Yeah, he does rock one though. He does rock one.
Yeah, he's looking good. And like I say, top player, top guy, and yeah, it's a real pleasure to have met him.
That's fantastic, and obviously come at an interesting time with the World Cup break pausing the season, which I think you could probably agree is maybe not the worst thing in the world for Southampton, especially considering the recent change of management. Slightly different track, Franny, but just curious to hear your thoughts on the season so far. And maybe that's too big of a question. We might have to split it up into a few mini questions.
Yeah, I guess we find ourselves at a point, don't we, where clearly I agree the World Cup break in the Premier League campaign is probably something that will help us as a club, and certainly Nathan Jones coming in and having that opportunity to work with what will be the bulk of the squad will only be a good thing, I'm sure. And the fact that we just dropped into the bottom three as the break sort of came about, it probably couldn't have come at a better time, really. Fully see the timing of the decision from the club's perspective, and it gives us an opportunity now to bounce back Premier League wise on Boxing Day against Brighton at St Mary's, but in the cup game before that as well will be a good opportunity again with a home fixture, not just to progress through to the next round, hopefully, but also for Nathan Jones and his team to have worked with the team and almost bounce back with what will be almost like a new season for us, because the running now is going to be crucial for the rest of our campaign.
I think a winter break is something that's been sort of spoken about for so many years, it feels like, certainly while I've grown up, but it's come in a slightly different way. It's not a winter break, is it? It's a World Cup break. But was there ever that chatter, that conversation about having a break in the winter when you were playing, Franny?
Not that I can really remember, to be honest. I mean, we were aware of it in other countries and things like that. And over the years, I think many people have sort of touched on it from time to time, but no one's really looked at it from a serious perspective, just thinking that it's what we've always done, and why change it? We've got that situation now, as we know. It's going to be fascinating to see how teams, not just like ourselves, teams at the top of the table who are doing well going into the break, how they're going to come back at the start of the restart again. So all these unanswered questions that we've got at the moment is going to be really, really interesting, and one that I hope, and I've got a gut feel, will be a good thing from a Saints perspective.
I think, to be fair, some of the players might be a little bit gutted they return on Boxing Day, because I've always thought as a player, if you've got Newcastle away on Boxing Day, you're not spending Christmas with your family, or maybe you'll have lunch with them, then you'll leave. They're coming in and they've got 6 weeks off, but then they're going to have to go and get back to work right on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that as a player you just understand that's part of the package. Yeah, ideally, my memories of training Christmas Day, playing Boxing Day, being in a hotel over those periods, and maybe in New Year in a hotel somewhere as well, ready to play on New Year's Day. We're never perfect from a family perspective, but it's one of those small sacrifices.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because obviously, as you've mentioned before, you feel very privileged to have played for Southampton and to have played professional football and to have achieved your dream in that respect. But that doesn't take away from a footballer's a capacity to feel loneliness or pain or sadness. And that is a time when, even though there's obviously a lot of fortune and joy in playing football, where those things can still hurt and strike you.
Oh, for sure. And I think, we've touched on it earlier, in our chat today that, I think in modern times now we're more aware of people's, especially mental health. But clearly there's those physical difficulties, for want of a better expression, that players, in the past and nowadays have had to go through or have to go through. And, and how you manage that, how you, clearly as an individual, you've got that. I mean, there's a big medical backup and support, certainly at Premier League level now, and clubs like Southampton, and there's a huge amount of support. It's I was just casting my mind back only the other day, thinking I had a back injury, which meant I hadn't really been able to train for 2 years, that I did during COVID, and that affected me in many ways, physically, mentally, and not being able to do something that I think that's really driven home the importance of how much I need to be active and doing something physical to keep me in top shape in every sense of the word. And coming out of the day-to-day life of football, where if you cough or sneeze, you be given some medication, or you'll see a doctor or a specialist, and everything is just driven to keeping you in that peak fitness, and physical and mental health. So yeah, it becomes a little bit harder when you've got to try and navigate that as somebody outside of day-to-day football, as many of us know now. But yeah, no, it's something that injury-wise, players have got to come through, play with certain things, and it's going to be, I guess, sort of keeping in shape during this break that we've got at the moment. Keeping, there'll probably be some friendly matches, I would imagine, to get us up to match pace, ready for the competitive game starting again. But the good thing is, it is time. This break has given clubs like us time to work on that. The timing of Nathan coming in is ideal for him to work with the squad now, and I'm fascinated, probably like you guys are, to see what's going to materialize in front of our eyes when we get back to it.
No, we spoke to Nathan for the first time. Benjy spoke to him at Staplewood, and I spoke to him at Anfield. And he is somebody who, when you listen to him speak, he wins you over immediately. You feel that passion. You feel that he's very honest and straight talking, which I'm sure that as a player you'd probably appreciate as well, wouldn't you? Something that you'll be able to give me a little bit more insight about, Franny, perhaps is, and I know things will have changed a lot in the last sort of 15, 20, 25 years, but what will Nathan be doing with his players in those first few weeks when they come back? What sort of conversations will he be having?
He will be having many conversations, I'm sure, not just him, but his staff and his team that have come with him. They'll be working group sessions, clearly, and working collectively. But there'll be those individual meetings and in smaller groups as well, I would imagine, where he's driving across how he sees the game and how he wants it to be played and what he's expecting from his players. And they'll be having those discussions, those meetings, those hours and hours on the training ground, both on and off the pitch, to align with what we have already had at the club. I think that's been touched on as well once or twice in the interviews, and you would have maybe even been sort of party to hearing those discussions. That I think part of the reason why Nathan Jones has come in is because of his philosophy, his style, how he wants to play, and almost being able to work with a group that have played similar in the past under Ralph. So it's not reinventing the wheel. I wouldn't have thought. It's very much making those little minor tweaks that will hopefully have a big impact and ultimately change our fortunes.
And obviously you as a player would have experienced a few manager changes, and that's why your insight is so interesting. But what was it like, I guess, as a player in those either days leading up to a manager leaving, the days afterwards? I mean, I imagine you yourself, obviously as captain, you were someone who always took a lot of responsibility. So I imagine there must be a lot of pain for almost feeling like it's not one person's fault when form nosedives. There's a lot of people who could impact things. So I imagine there's a mix of responsibility, excitement, curiousness, nervousness, etc., etc.
I'd be nervous for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of those, exactly what you've touched on, Benji. It's a lot of those emotions, feelings, thoughts. That there's managers where managers have lost their position under my time as a player, and you feel an element of responsibility and guilt because you feel part of the reason why they may have lost their job. You're one of the players that's been either selected to play and out there on the pitch, that you're one of starting 11 stroke any substitutes that are used over the course of a season that are responsible for the fate and the outcome of your football club. And that responsibility sometimes weighs quite heavy. I realized in relegation fights and battles, and every time I pulled the shirt on, that I was representing not just myself and my family, but thousands and thousands of people. And then there's, from a personal perspective, it's that uncertainty. You might be a player that's played a lot under the previous manager. You might have been someone that was out on the fringes a little bit, and you might see it as an opportunity to get back in. And all those things will be exactly the same with the change in the position at Saints now. There'll be players that maybe haven't figured quite so much under Ralph that will think, I've got an opportunity now to impress the new manager. And there'll be players maybe that were in the side quite regularly that would be thinking, well, I can't take my place for granted. I've got to impress the new manager as well. So hopefully it's a win-win, and we get performance levels much higher, and performances and ultimately results.
Yeah, the relegation battle, I mean, it's really interesting because obviously Southampton, unfortunately, are in a relegation battle at the moment, aren't they? Clearly, there's 25 games or however many left. It is a long time, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be there at the end. But right now they are. I wanted to sort of mention the captain as well, because James Ward-Prowse, you captain the club, you know what it means to captain a club that's local to you, and he's been there for such a long time. I felt really, really bad for him when he missed out on the World Cup squad this winter, because we know how hard James has been working towards that, and it was the last 6 weeks just sort of worked against him. Did you feel the same about Prowsley when he missed out on that?
I was pretty cut up for him. Clearly he's been part of Gareth Southgate's squads for some time, and certainly been in contention. I guess it's one of those things that maybe for James, the club, we've struggled a bit this season. Maybe his performances have just dipped off a little bit as well to where they were last season. But that's not to underestimate the influence and the role that he plays for our club. And, I certainly hope he'll use that as a motivation to bounce back and improve, Southampton's fortunes as well as his own, and get back into the international stage, because I think he's shown he's got those qualities. He's able to perform at that level. We know what he can do for our club, and yeah, he's a key member for sure, both on and off the pitch.
Yeah, you're absolutely. He'll be somebody who's really important.
Just to interrupt you guys, sorry guys, can you see me? It's getting rather dark here. Weather outside my window. Do you need me to switch a light on at all?
No, it's honestly, you're right. I think we're just about to wrap up anyway, Benji. But you are getting a bit dark, but it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. I remember I recorded a Total Saints podcast once, and it was about sort of August, and it was completely bright at the start, and by the end I was having to lighten the brightness on my laptop just so people could see me. It was completely pitch black, but we're not at this stage yet, so we're all good.
I don't think it's the shade from our moustaches, hopefully.
No, the light is being provided by the moustaches.
Franny, do you think I should invest in some oil to do the twizzles, or is that maybe taking it a bit too far?
Oh, do you know what? I never went the whole little fine twist on the ends, but I'm really impressed with that Alfie. I think get a little bit of wax on that. That'll just sharpen it up. I think that'd be pretty cool.
I will do. That's the two best moustaches in football that have endorsed it now. So I'm living the dream.
I'm looking to convince Alfie to keep his going much longer than November, but we'll see how things go. But unfortunately, we are running out of time. Very soon to be running out of time. I think me and Alfie probably feel we could sit here and chat for the entire day, but Franny, we really can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on and chatting with us, sharing your thoughts, sharing your stories. I know that fans will thoroughly enjoy listening to you. Obviously, the most important part of this is the Movember, the fundraising, the awareness. for mental health and suicide prevention for men, which we know is just such a massive problem in the world, and men that are close to my life, close to all of our lives, I'm sure, struggling with these issues, prostate cancer, testicular cancer. So if you can, donate at all. We'll include the links to Alfie's and Franny's fundraisers. If not, and you can spread the word, that's also incredible. We appreciate all and any kind of support. Last thing I guess I'll say is that if anyone out there is struggling, please speak to someone. It takes there's no element of weakness in speaking to someone. It's purely a thing of strength, I think, particularly when it can be taboo as a man to speak with other men about problems or someone. I think it shows real strength when we can stand up and do that. But that's, I guess, just lastly from me. Franny, is there any message you want to leave people with?
Just, really enjoyed it, guys. Great to chat with you. And I'm ultra impressed with the 2 efforts that you've shown on the screen today. I'm loving that. And I might even, if there's a few donations roll in, I might even reenact blimey, I should have worked out how many years ago it was now. I'll pull on one of my old retro shirts and
please do.
See what it was like if I was a player back with the tache again.
I'm holding you to that for sure. Let's get some donations in so we can see that.
Absolutely. If there wasn't enough incentive before, there certainly is now.
Well, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you for joining us, and thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon with another special with some other guests, and we'll see what we can do.
Fantastic. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we will speak soon. All right. Bye now.